Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. And today we're not going to run the tank, but I'm going to talk about the tank. Mainly the driver figure for the tank. So when you get your Heng Long tank, you're going to get a driver figure, and he's just going to be a green dude. No paint, no nothing. And he just kind of, sits here in the hole. So I painted up both of my driver's figures, and I'm going to go over those in a minute. But I'm also going to go over, working on securing him into the hole. Now, I don't want to take the turret off and take the turret apart and everything to put a magnet in there, because that was where my brain first went, was like, oh, we can put a magnet in the bottom of him, and then I can drill this out and glue a magnet in him, and it'll stick right in there. I don't want to take the turret off. It's kind of a pain. And the more you take stuff apart, the more chances are to break something, lose something, strip something, So we're just not going to go that route. We're going to go Velcro. So and this may vary from tank to tank, but my tank, the port for the IR sensor is over here, and the hatch for the BBs to go into is over here, and that's where your commander sits. So I don't worry about shooting this thing. I've shot it, it's cool, but I don't want to be picking up little tiny plastic BBs out of my yard all the time. So if I shoot it, it's just dry firing. I don't care. So what I did is I put just a small piece of very grippy back Velcro into the bottom of the space, because when you're driving around with it, either the hatch is going to be closed or the commander is going to be sitting inside of it. And then you just take and cut a piece of Velcro to fit, and then stick him down. So now we have the Velcro on the bottom, and when you stick him down in the tank, the commander stays there. So, he's going to ride around, and then whenever you want to take him out and run it with the lid closed, there you go. Super simple. So let me take a minute. I'm going to get the tank out of the way. We're going to bring the camera over and look at the commander figure. So we have driver A and driver B. They're identical figures, but they were painted in different fashions with identical paints. So the overalls he's wearing is one color, his shirt is another color, the helmet's the same color as the shirt, face is another color, the back of his, head covering there is a different color. He's got the brown strap on his helmet and the brown gloves. Now, like I said, both of these were painted with identical colors. Oh yeah, there's yellow on his focus, yellow on his sergeant stripes there. But they were both painted with the same colors, but as you can see, they look drastically different. Now, I use mainly Vallejo Model Air and the Vallejo, regular model acrylics. So what I did was I painted both of these figures solid black as a primer coat. Don't ever try to paint directly on the plastic. It's always best to put a primer coat on. And then what I did is I came back in with a dry brush. So what it sounds like, a dry brush, and you just dip it in the color of paint, and then you take and basically get almost 99% of the paint off onto a paper towel. And then you come in here and you brush on just a tiny little highlight of white over top of your black. And what that does is it picks out all these highlighted raised areas, like the edges of his coat, these crinkles on his sleeve, the crinkles on the back of his jacket, the highlights in his face. You'll get up in there and lightly dry brush on there to pick out some highlights on his face. It does two things for you. One is it shows you all the detail in this, because when this was just solid plastic, it had very little detail. It looked much more like this, to where it just had lumps and bumps in it. But then you get the other one next to it, and you can see all the extra detail, and it stands out much, much better. So once I did that, I just came in and I painted the whole, his jacket and his overalls and everything in one color green. And then I found another color green that was a shade darker, painted that over top of his overalls. And then I came in, painted his gloves brown, the strap brown, and then started working on his face and everything. This whole figure, well, actually both of these figures, because I basically painted them at the same time, probably, 30 minutes worth of effort. You gotta let some stuff dry. So you paint, 2 or 3 minutes and then let it dry for 10 or 15. Come back, or come back tomorrow, whatever. So like the brown on his gloves, and I'm sorry the focus is so hard. So the brown on his gloves, this paint was unthinned. This paint was thinned. Same thing with his coat. This is the Vallejo Model Air, and then this is a slightly thinned Vallejo Model Air. Same thing on his helmet, slightly thinned, unthinned. His face is a huge difference. You can see the one where it's unthinned paint, he just has a monotone, tan face, where the other one, there's much more, oh, hi, how are you? So there's much more, tonal variation to his face. The same thing with his little headgear covering. It allows, when you water it down and thin out that paint, it is reducing the pigment of it. So the white is showing through, the black is showing through, but you're actually putting green on there. So it all looks green. It just looks like different shades of green, to where this one, being unthinned, the paint is much, much thicker, and, it's all looks flat. It's all green. The gloves, they're all brown, to where this has a little bit of the white showing through, a little bit of the black showing through. So you can get a very, very nice looking figure with just, 10 minutes of prep time. A flat, I just paint, like I said, any black. I use a Vallejo primer. It's actually a gloss black, just because of what they had on hand. And then I just take a regular white acrylic, dry brush it on, get all those highlights in there naturally, and then come back with thinned out paint, and just basically you're just washing it on. It may take 2 coats for the coat to build up enough color, but you can put a wash on, and you don't want to like slather it on. You just want to paint it on until you have color. You don't want big pools of it sitting in the jackets and like in the collar area or anything like that. If you have pools sitting in there, just dab your brush onto a paper towel and then just come in there and just wick that extra paint off, and you get your brush dry, and then come in and just tap that, and it'll suck the extra paint right out. And then just let your figure dry for 5-10 minutes, and then come back and put another coat on. If it's still super white, come back and put another coat on. But I like the way that one turned out. It's very bright looking on camera, but it's much darker looking in person. It's much more closer to this color in person than it is on camera. But from a distance, you can definitely see much more detail, and it looks much more alive on the washed one than it does with just the standard painted one. So sometimes thinning out your paints, taking your time and just putting it on, and doing that dry brush method, and I'll put pictures up so you guys can see, but it looks so much better. So now he looks very much at home in the tank, and is nice and detailed. It makes the tank look much more plasticky and undetailed, but the tank itself actually has a nice finish on it. So anyway, that's just a tip for you guys. I know a lot of guys struggle with painting. I've done it a fair amount. I'm no master at it by any means, but I think he turned out pretty cool. So for me and the Tank Commander, everybody out there, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you.